welcome everyone for coming out. Give yourself a hand for coming out here this morning. I really appreciate you. Now, I know I'm not in church, but I found out that every time you clap your hands, you hold the devil at bay. Come on, let's give God just a thunderous hand praise for being here this morning. Thank you. I want to take this time to thank all of those that were sponsors. Thank God for our Herald News, those that will also is going to be recording, taking pictures. We thank you. We thank you, you. Thank you, Miss Julie, for coming. Thank you for our Joliet finest. Thank you for those that are running for position, our councilmen and women for being here today. Let's give them a hand also. We thank you. Every business person, we thank God for every business person. We just thank you. We thank you for every male, female, just being here today. And we just so much appreciate you. We humble for the fact that you took your time, your busy time, to come out here and hear what these potential candidates has to say. And let's all be nice and be cordial with them. Is that all right? I'm used to responding. All right then. Well, we're going to have at this time, my daughter's going to come up and read the person that the next voice you will hear that will facilitate. He's well capable, well able to do this. So again, I'm so humbled to have Al Penn here today and his wonderful wife be with us today as well. Dr. Penn, thank God for her as well. Let's give them a hand as well. Yes, we're going to have Pastor Galinda come. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to have Pastor Galinda, my dear friend, to come and lead us in prayer.
Great morning, everyone. All hearts and minds, let's just bow our heads. Great God, the God of the universe, the God of the heavens, the God who orchestrates all things, the one who has planned our end from the beginning. We approach your throne this morning, God, and we're asking even for this election that's coming up. God, you already know the hearts and the minds of those that are running. And we ask, Father, for your direction, for your insight, for your wisdom. And most of all, God, we ask that you would be glorified in this election. That you would put in the seats those that you have already ordained and orchestrated from the very beginning. So I ask even now for your presence to envelop us in this room today, that everything that's said, everything that's heard would be taken to heart, Lord God, and that you would be honored and glorified. We thank you for angelic hosts that are in our midst even right now, and they are guiding and orchestrating and directing everything that transpires in this forum today. For that, we give you praise. We thank you for hearing and for answering our prayer. We give you glory for it now. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. And the people said, I said, the church said, praise be unto God. I want to thank God for my brothers in the ministry. I want every pastor, every minister, if you're in ministry, I just want you to stand. I want these candidates to see that how much we love you and care. I want every pastor, minister, evangelist, we want to let you know how much we are concerned about what's going on in our community. At this time, we have ready to come forth to read Mr. Penn's Bible.
All right. All right, so our moderator here today is Mr. Al Penn. He is the president of Penn Consulting Group, a Chicago-based marketing, media, and public relations firm that provides strategic market branding, business development, and communication resources to businesses and organizations. He is located at 200 East Randolph Suite in Chicago, Illinois, in the beautiful AI Center. A native of Chicago, Southland region, born in Chicago Heights, Illinois, raised in Harvey, Illinois. He attended Thornton Township High School and is alum of South Suburban College and Governor State University. Mr. Penn started his media career as a sport radio co-host with the WCGO radio in Chicago Heights. He co-hosted and produced nightly local sports radio broadcast, Let's Talk Sports, which was a broadcast in South Suburban of Illinois, Northwest Indiana. He was credentialed by the NBA to also cover all NBA games, including the 6-time world champion Chicago Bulls. He is a roundtable member of City's First partnership between U.S. Conference of Mayors and the Nehemiah Corporation of America. He was also the senior advisor to Lori Lightfoot for the Chicago 2019 mayor's campaign. He was also served as an elected official on the Board of Trustees of the Village of University Park. He also was honored by the former United States Senator Mary L. of Louisiana, former New Orleans mayor, and current National Urban League president. He also lives in the Chicago, South Loop of Chicago with his wife, Dr. Susan Penn. Together they have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. He also directed efforts at Emmanuel AME Church and nominated for the 2016 Nobel Peace Prize. He directed a global effort to nominate Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. for the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize based on his 60 years of work of civil and human rights in the United States and abroad. Mr. Al Payne.
Before they get ready to come in, someone has to unlock. Al Payne's going to give the license plate number. I thought they would bring it in by now, but they're going to let them know the vehicle. So he's going to stop for a moment and let you know you got to move your vehicle so they can get out. Did he bring it in? Did he bring it in? Did he bring it in?
He wiped my brow. It wasn't me. So I'm glad it wasn't me. Listen, everybody, I am so thrilled to be here. We are going to have a discussion about all things that are going on in the city of Joliet. I'm not from Joliet, but certainly a lot of good people have come out of the city. And so we're going to talk about a ton of issues that are important to you all, because a lot of citizens were able to send me questions that they wanted to have asked here at this forum. And so we've compiled nearly 70 questions. We don't know if we're going to get through all of them now because of time, but we took consideration of the Joliet citizens in terms of what they wanted to discuss. And so what we want to do at this particular point is kind of give you an upfront, close, and personal peek at both candidates. And the first person that we're going to introduce is Ms. Tycee Bell. And to give you some background about her, she's a community strategist with about 20 years of nonprofit experience and advocates for the growth and development of communities and families. As a community affairs professional and Joliet native, Ms. Bell is leading coalitions and developing frameworks that result in collective impact. She's also the visionary director of Southern Mountains LLC and Community Cultivation Project. Ms. Bell's work in personal and professional development is galvanizing leaders to take bold action for change in the community and in the boardroom. She has received the 2021 PEPS Award for Community Service and the 2022 Project Acclaim 2022's first quarter recipient of the Reverend James Allen Award for Service to the Community. Her work as a professional, community leader, and so on has consistently reflected her dedication to issue advocacy, equity, transformation, and neighborhood relations. To find out more about her, go to her website, which is citizensfortyceebell.com. I'll repeat that. That's citizensfortyceebell.com. Give her an applause, please. The next person that we're going to introduce is currently your mayor, and his name is Robert Oderkirk. And Mayor Oderkirk was elected mayor of the city of Joliet in 2015, and prior to being elected mayor, he was elected as a member of the Joliet City Council. He's a graduate of the University of Illinois and the John Marshall Law School. Prior to becoming an attorney, he worked as a police officer for 10 years, where he worked as both a patrolman and in plainclothes capacity. During that time, Mayor Oderkirk was a highly decorated officer who was nominated 4 times for Officer of the Year. And he's an Iraq War veteran also too, and is a partner of the law firm Oderkirk, Allred and Associates. He's married to his wife Rebecca, and the originator of 3 children on the near west side of Joliet. Give a hand for Mayor Robert Earl. So what we're going to do next is to kind of go over the ground rules. We've already gone over that with the 2 candidates that are here today, but we want to go over the ground rules for the audience so they know what to expect in terms of how this is going to be managed. Questions, I'm going to ask the questions, and they're going to be 2-minute responses from each candidate. If a candidate has been used in an answer by the other candidate, they will have the opportunity to request a 1-minute rebuttal. That's it. It's not a back and forth debate, but they will get a chance to kind of clear up any answer that they feel is not categorically true, or want to re-emphasize something that maybe the other candidate may not be aware of.
Move and migrate from city to city is oftentimes they lean on the current structure. So again, back to that household, that family structure, and they live together and they build together. So we need to get banks, we need to get colleges, we need to get loan officers, we need to get them back to the table again. We're about 100 years with the same laws, the same ways. I recently found out that deeds currently say that you should not be giving your home or your deed over to anyone who looks like me, who is Asian, who is Hispanic, right? So we still have very old laws in Illinois, and a lot of these things are how we socially construct and perceive how government rules and runs things. And so for me, that is disturbing. So a lot of times, again, I look at my research and I say, how can I help people come to a better solution for housing? I don't think it's a one fix and one group's going to be able to do it. I think it is a combination, again, of co-op housing, talking to banks, what properties are available, talking to people who want to buy land. Some people have sold off their parents' land and moved to other cities or states. Some people have retired and the land has went without anyone fixing it up, so it just ends up on these same lists, and it's property that's losing its value and it's taking the value of the neighborhood down as well. So I think we have multiple choices, but again, I think we have to work together so that we can have an equitable solution. If we are indeed at 71%, again, it's going to be a combination of things: rent control, working with landlords, working with banks, and working with communities to figure out how to get these neighborhoods built back up in a way that we can have housing in communities that helps everyone and not just one group of people.
Thank you. Never same question. 71% of the housing stock built between 1940 and 1999. Is there an issue for affordable housing?
I believe there is. I think Ms. Bell is correct. One thing that we've learned with the growth that we have, especially in the South, and the tens of thousands of new jobs that have come into our city, so many of these people are not from Joliet or even from Will County. They're coming to our city from Cook County or other areas. I met with the leaders of Amazon a couple of years ago, and they reported, this was kind of stunning, 40% of their workers were Will County residents. 60%, more than half of the people going to Amazon to work every day are coming from outside our county. So we've certainly identified this in the city. This is a target. This is something to keep some of these people here, to keep their dollars here, where they invest and live in Joliet. One thing that we've done, I work with the Joliet Housing Authority and Michael Simonton. There's a couple different initiatives. We've talked about developing workforce housing, especially, I mentioned the open areas that we have to the south and to the west. We've talked specifically about affordable housing being built in those areas near the logistics and the warehousing and all those businesses that have come in. We are working currently on the Joliet Country Club. That was an idea that came from City Hall. We suggested to the Housing Authority. They ran up the federal flagpole and loved the idea. The people who purchased the Country Club wanted warehousing on the Country Club. That was their plan. They came in and met with me and the city manager. They had it all mapped out. When we told them that we were not going to do this, we're not going to rezone this, we're not even going to bring it to the committee level of the council, it's not going to happen, they were stunned. Somehow they were under the assumption when they bought the property that warehousing was going to be a done deal, but it's not. Joliet Housing Authority currently is negotiating with these people trying to buy that property, and they want to build workforce and senior housing on that site. I think it's a great example of what we're trying to do. I think we need to do more of that going forward. I do think the city council acknowledges that that's something that we have to work harder on, do a better job of that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're running for any position here in the city of Joliet, please stand. Please stand if you're running for a position. Look around, look around. Look at that. Look at all this. Oh my God. Can you quickly say your name real quick?
My name is Frank Evans. I'm running for district school for school.
Next.
Judge John Anderson running for appellate court.
Next.
Chris Parker, and I am the security guard for Judge Anderson, just so you know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm running for Joliet District 4 City Council.
Wonderful. In the back?
Mike Carruthers, running for District 5 City Councilman.
Next.
My name is Janine Jackson. I'm running for Joliet City Council, District 3.
Next.
My name is Diane M. Harris. I'm running for Joliet Junior College in Johnson Beach.
My name is Larry Hawkins. I'm the current council member of District 1, running for re-election and enjoying this out.
Thank you. That might get you elected. Wonderful. You're now back in the hands of well-capable Al Penn.
Listen, give yourselves a hand, and who do I blame for this delicious food that came here? Oh, they did it? Oh, well, since it's your daughter, I can't blame them. I thank you. Listen, for the folks who are running for office, I stand up and give you a bow and salute you, and that's all the candidates, because, you know, I've been a former elected official. It's a lot of work. There's no set real schedule outside of meetings to deal with, you know, your jurisdiction's problems. In a lot of cases, there's a lot of thankless time too. So for those folks who have decided to put their personal good on the line, I salute you. Because I've been there, done that, and understand that's a hard job. So give those candidates a hand, please. Thank you. So we're going to continue with questions regarding economic development. And Ms. Dell, I think you raised a question earlier about being able to deal with issues regarding decaying homes and people who may not have them. Programs like the Will County's Home Fund are kind of issued annually, but they're limited in its use. It impacts a lot of minority contractors and existing barriers that really kind of deny them access. What ideas do you have that you think can benefit minority contractors to improve housing stock in the city of Joliet, where people may not have the funds or the ability to basically upkeep their homes, because it puts them in a very precarious position with code enforcement and other things like that?
So one thing, not one question, but one thing that popped in my head in the beginning was that when I worked at the Salvation Army, we had an opportunity to bring folks into our building a lot, based on the needs and based on the needs assessments that were done when families came in. We had intake forms. And a lot of the families, as you described, named off a lot of those things. And currently, with the current state of the city council, we've heard again over and over of these people, and they're showing up to the meetings. For the contractors, I've worked with Urban League. I've seen some of the things that they've done in the past, and it's been a long time. But I think for me, what I envision for these families and for these homes is that we kind of get together again with organizations such as the African American Business Association. We look to those who are looking to build the minority business enterprises out. We look to work with people who have vendor opportunities for us to come in and work on these projects. Again, as someone on the outside looking in, often I'm hearing, just like a resident, I'm not really hearing this information firsthand. So I think sometimes by the time it gets to someone like me, it is, they're in dire straits, they need a resource, they need to go, to Prairie State Legal, they need to work with someone because they're, really at their end of the road. So I'm dealing with these folks as individuals. What I will say is that I've been working with two groups out of Chicago and a gentleman here in Joliet. And what we've been talking about is creating this hub where we bring in the contractors and we actually allow them the space to partner not just with Joliet Junior College, ABA, LEDA, and the people who are currently doing the work, but right now we ask them what they need. And if a lot of them need contracts and/or a vendor license and/or processes, and they're not aware of where they are, I think that's the start. But I think we need it now. I'm not sure if I answered the whole question, but again, that's where I am, and that's where I'm facilitating and advocating, and I'm in those meetings now. And again, if I can lend a hand to the second part of the question, then I will if I have time.
Well, I think your time is up.
Okay.
Same question, what can the city do outside of, what other locales and jurisdictions are doing regarding helping seniors and other citizens who may not have the funds to maintain their properties?
We can do a couple of things. You're right in citing Will County. These programs really are a product of Will County government. We do partner with Will County. The city works with the Housing Authority. Again, I appoint the Housing Authority Board with the council approval, and Housing Authority directly addresses those issues. We also get money every year. We get over $1 million from the federal government. It's called the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG fund, and that money is distributed to programs in not-for-profit organizations all over the city. How it's distributed is done, that's the council's decision. And certainly there's money that could be directed towards a housing program. I talked about economically how well the city's doing. We are doing well. Not only are we putting money away, but we've invested heavily the last 2 or 3 years in Joliet's infrastructure. That's discretionary spending. We can pull money out from the streets and sidewalk repairs and put it into a different program. Again, that's just something that's up to the council or the city manager when he budgets. But I will say, traditionally, Joliet would spend about $3 million a year on streets or sidewalks. 2 years ago, last year we spent $14 million. This year we budgeted $18 million to redo streets and sidewalks throughout Joliet. Beyond that, with the water project that I talked about, we have to redo the entire water infrastructure in Joliet. We are replace every water main throughout the city that was built before 1970, and we're removing all lead pipes from any Joliet home. So that's a major, major undertaking. But certainly some of those dollars, maybe not for the water, but for streets and sidewalks, if it was the will of the council, could be directed to other programs that support the things that we're asking for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's been an issue that was relayed to me by several black and brown contractors here in Joliet. And they've tried to engage the city in terms of aligning procurement percentages with the equal demographic percentages of black and brown contractors within the communities. How do you bridge that gap with these two groups? Of making certain that if you're looking at, I think the Latino community represents about 21% of the population, African American communities is representing about 17%. What can be done to kind of help align those percentages with the procurement process in the city of Joliet? You can take that first.
It's an ongoing issue. I have worked with the contractors, and I think they do a good job, and certainly advocate strongly. I think the issue on the city council, and I think the entire council feels this way, but it's certainly my position. If you go strictly off the numbers, we want to keep those jobs, those contracts local as much as possible. We want to reward Joliet companies and Joliet citizens. People who have chosen to invest here should be first in line for those jobs. You'd hate to be in a situation where you're looking at a percentage and Cook County or Chicago contractors are getting in front of Joliet contractors. And that's always been the issue. Again, I don't think anyone disagrees with the equity, but it's the actual outcome. We want Joliet contractors and Joliet residents getting the first bite of the apple. That's been the ongoing, I guess, push and pull with this.
Okay, Ms. Bell, same question.
Yeah, can you repeat it one more time? I'm sorry.
Black and brown contractors have tried to engage the city of Joliet and hoping to align the percentages of procurement with the population here in town. And they've had a struggle with that. What do you think can be done to kind of help bridge that gap?
Well, I'm going to go back to being a community strategist, right? We need a plan to bring them into the room. So I think for our city and for folks like, again, that are contractors, what we have to do is we have to think about what we don't have. And in a city like Joliet, we oftentimes don't have the groups, the voices in the room. People are having meetings, and there's 5 or 10 folks showing up to, I keep bringing up ABBA because I was a membership chair for a while. I bring up these black and brown organizations. Later, I was in the building, working there, renting from that group, and I saw what they were doing. They were going after the city center partnerships funding. They were going after the funding. They were having fundraisers first. So they had a plan and a strategy in place. And I think often for black and brown communities, we look at one another and we compare, and then we say, oh, we're not asking that group to, what do they call it, divest funds. So we're not asking them to stop funding in one space. We're asking them, why not me? And we really need to have a plan. We really need to have a call to action. And so again, that's what I've been talking about, civic engagement. Why are people not engaged? Why are we waiting until, the home or the economic worth or value or vision, it looks poor, the quality is down, and this is 2023. So I think, again, I don't want to say what's wrong and what hasn't been done right, but we need those folks in the room. We need them to be equitable partners in the next phase, and that's why working with someone like me is going to give you that opportunity, looking at the current people who are asking you to get their vote in your districts. If this is your district that we're talking about, if this is your community, if this is your business for years that has been overlooked, this is a time for you to step up and have the conversation in the larger rooms and ask and then acknowledge and then get the certificates and ask us for the funding. Help us go and get the funding. We can't get it without you.
Thank you. I'm going to give a follow-up question to her, and you'll be the same with you, Mayor. The follow-up question would be, in a lot of cases, the barriers for black and brown contractors comes down to the issue of bonding, to the issue of insurance. Will there be a possibility under your administration that you would look at self-insuring as a possibility in order to open that door for contractors who traditionally have been locked out?
We've had so many forums. We were asked this question about police and if we would insure those type of things. I think when it comes to bonding and insurance, again, I'm working with a group. We're having the conversation. They formed some unions, again, skilled trade, and putting those type of buildings in our city. We don't have them. When I get to Chicago, everywhere I see reflects diversity. When I'm in Joliet, by the time I hit Frontage Road, our labor, our union, our contractors, they don't look like me, and they don't look like the 34% Hispanic culture that our city represents. So we're talking again about a cultural issue, systematic issue, things that have, again, been at the core of a lot of cities that are now in a space where we're saying we need this, we want this, but again, we don't have it. So I think that collectively we do. We have to have a plan, and if that is an option, then that's something I'm willing to look into. But I would have to meet those folks and see them in the room. As far as I know, there may be a few here, but the last time, like I said, that I actually was in a space with anyone was just a few weeks ago, and they said, where's your current program? And we couldn't find one. The 3 of us, they told us, come back when you have the people that want to work on this. And so lastly, I'll say that I've talked about this again too, generationally. We haven't given the younger generation or folks my age an opportunity to build with those folks. So I think if they're in your church, pastors, if you've retired from these spaces, if you're an electrician, then let's get, again, some of these vacant buildings, let's turn these spaces into where we actually complete the task for the future and build it now. Let's not wait for the hypothetical. If Tyson can do it, I'm still going to need you all.
You would want to get a response to that question.
I'll answer the question, then I'll respond. It's certainly something that we would consider we would look at. We have some freedom on the city council already. And again, the focus has always been local business. If it's City of Joliet dollars is being spent on a project, we want local businesses, local contractors, local people to get that money when possible. We already are in a position, we have an ordinance, we don't have to take the lowest bid. We can go for a higher bid if it's someone from within Joliet. That's always been the focus, and that's the focus I'd like to continue with. But certainly bonding issues and things that help minority local contractors, I absolutely would consider doing that. Ms. Bell mentioned correctly about ABBA and LENA. ABBA is the African American Business Association. LENA is the Latino Economic Development Association. Both of those groups began during the last 8 years here of my tenure, and I've worked with both of them. I think the past and current president of ABBA can testify to that. LENA was just in front of the city council a couple weeks ago. I mentioned my last answer about the community development block grant, the $1 million+ we get from the federal government. The city of Joliet gave money to 11. So we do support these groups. We do support local minority businesses. We support all local businesses, and that's always been the emphasis. But directly to your question, we do have the ability to do things in this sphere that we're not allowed to do in others, and that would certainly be something I think the council should consider moving forward.
Okay, thank you. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and this has been an issue of real live discussion, and it's the Joliet Police Department. Recently, an Inspector General's report came out regarding the activities of former Chief Alan Rushner and former Lieutenant Mark Reed. If so, obviously I'm sure, Mayor, you've read the report. Ms. Miller, have you read the report? Okay, all right. And it was also reported that a number of city council members voted against investigating police misconduct. And this was in regards to mostly, one, the Eric Lurie incident, where Mr. Lurie died from a medical emergency while he was in police custody. And as a result, because there was, as I would say, the story was being rewritten internally, Sergeant Javier Escueda made the video public of the arrest and the death, and is now being prosecuted in Kendall County. As a result, what a lot of citizens have been pushing for was a citizen review board. What protections could the citizen review board given in terms of protections to Sergeant Escueda, and as well as the deceased Mr. Lurie? So, that's right.
Let me say this, I'm never comfortable talking about Eric Lurie because he is not with us. I am a friend of his widow. A lot of the reasons that I stand before you are because I was activating my voice was silenced for years on issues when it came to policing. Our young people right now have a lot of social media. They're engaged in so many things in the school system, in their homes, that directly reflect what our communities have not been doing. What we need to do today is we need to stop focusing on the wrongs, and we need to come together to figure out what we're going to do for the future of the city. What's happening is that I'm working with groups. Doug is here, Nonviolent Cities, and we're calling people constantly. Can we have a peace rally? Oh, no, don't do that over here. You know, and we're asking for peace. We're asking for social justice. We're asking for a citizens review. And as soon as you ask for things like that, and you say, I'm here, I want to talk to the council, and you get shot down. The eight council members, did you say 8? No. Well, there were a few. I know Mayor had to, Oderkirk had to recuse himself. So there were folks who voted against taking a stand against the document that was filed against Rocher and his team and all that. So I say all of this because I live here, I'm a resident. And a lot of us want to protect ourselves, and we do lean on the police to protect us. And so when you see these things get gaslit and a lot of fire behind them, you don't know the people who put work in behind them. I'm one of them, and I was told, you know, no one's going to like you because you signed that form for the Citizens Review. I signed that form for you all. I signed that form for Eric Lurie, for the future of his children and for the people in the city. We are telling people that we have to teach black children not to do this and move when the car gets pulled over, yet we see a video of a gentleman who was put in the back of a police car, and I'm supposed to believe that they did not search him, they did not know in 2020, and then the tape was hidden, and then we got to the, you know, to the council meeting, and there was a second tape that never, you know, surfaced. This is painful. This is really a sore subject to talk about. So I think while we're still in civil suits and suits are being filed, my stance is that when you see laws, read about them. When you see newspaper articles, they're giving you one page. There's full reports. Do the research, find out. I have been in prayer for Officer Esqueda's family as well as the Lurie family and all of those attached to that situation. And I'm going to continue to even pray for our police and our city council in that situation because we have not figured out how to resolve these issues. And I think that when we see our children watching this over and over again, it is somewhat of our responsibility to protect them in the future.
Thank you. Mayor, same question.
And this is hard to answer in 2 minutes, but I'll do my best for 3 minutes. Regarding the recent situation, I did recuse myself, and I haven't really spoken about it because I don't want this to be political. It's not political. These are crimes that were committed by the chief of police, by the deputy chief, and probably others. There was at least 1 or 2 elected officials that you've elected that were in that room. There was the editor of the Joliet Herald News that was in the room. They printed a lie over and over and over again. Still have not retracted that story as I'm standing here right now. So I'm not going to talk much about that other than simply to say this. I will, after this election's over, you're going to be hearing a lot about this from me. But for right now, if these people thought they could do it to the mayor of Joliet, they could create a lie, put it in a police report, list me as a criminal suspect, send that lie to the FBI to be investigated, then they send it to the state police to be investigated, and then they put it in the newspaper. They did that to me, and 2 years later they've gotten away with it. What do you think they would do to any one of you? I'll leave it at that.
Do you think the citizens board would have given real protections to Mr. Lurie in that squad car and also Sergeant Esqueda in terms of really trying to push forward the truth of what really happened?
I think the council, I know Councilman Morris wants a civilian review board. The issue has been the terms of the board or the demands, and I can't speak for Ms. Bell, but I know the board members and the people pushing this wanted to get paid. I think they wanted insurance from the city. There was always different sticking points why that hasn't happened. What, I guess, with Eric Lurie, Ms. Bell alluded to this, and very few people know this, Councilman Hunt knows it. That videotape that you've all seen was never shown to myself, the city council, the city manager, or even the city legal department. The same individuals in the police department withheld that tape. I didn't see it until 5 months later. For the first time, when I saw it, I immediately brought it to the council. We saw it in executive session. In that executive session, all 9 council people agreed that we had to take immediate action. We all agreed that we were going to write and sign a letter to the Illinois Attorney General to come and investigate this matter. Only 4 of us signed the letter. Myself, Councilman McQuillan, Councilman Hugg, and Councilman Morris. The other 5, as many of you know, found a million different reasons not to do it. And to this day won't give an explanation why they refused to sign that letter or what changed between seeing that videotape in executive session and the next day when I proposed a letter. So, again, I'll simply say this. Some of the issues that have happened within the police department are intolerable. None of you should tolerate it. I'm not going to tolerate it. I see police officers that are here that are shaking their heads, and that needs to change. I think a citizen review board would be one way to make the change, but I think internally we have to have a city government where you do not have rogue individuals that are politically targeting for criminal prosecution people that they see as being their enemies. That's what happened here in Joliet. It can never be allowed to happen again.
One more question. This is just a yes or no answer because I know there's layers of government that would have to deal with this. But what about decertification of officers who cross the line like that?
Yeah, that's part of the state law now. And I know our Inspector General last week petitioned the state board. I'm not sure its title. There's a review board in Springfield to have Chief Roaster and Deputy Chief Reed decertified as police officers, so they could never work as police officers again. As we stand right now, Deputy Chief Reed is working in Elwood as a supervisor, in a supervisor capacity as a police officer. So our Inspector General has petitioned the State Commission to review that and strip them of their certification.
Decertification, Ms. Bell?
Well, I mean, I think we proved that what happened to Javier, Officer Javier, he was reprimanded. So why are we not holding other people accountable for what they're doing and what they've taken an oath in office to do?
Thank you. Earlier, the comment came out from MoneyGeek.com that Joliet has been regarded as the 8th safest place to live in the United States. In talking to some residents this week, they understand that murders have declined in the last couple of years exponentially. They're very happy about that. But they also basically stated that they feel that broken windows crime is still a problem around the city, such as robbery, such as assault, such as battery, such as drug use and dealing, etc., all of that. How do you get those type of crimes under control? Certainly we don't like anybody to pull out a firearm and shoot anybody, but how do you get these other type of crimes under control?
I think the answer, and I think we're in the process of doing, is hiring additional police officers. What we saw in 2020 was an exodus from the police department of a lot of senior officers. They had time in for their pension, they were leaving, maybe prematurely. At the same time, because of COVID, the police academies were closed, we were unable to backfill those positions. So we saw a significant drop in the number of police officers here in Joliet. We've hired over 70 in the last 2 years, and that's certainly a trend that we have to continue. We are continuing. I think the neighborhood policing program, which has existed here in Joliet since when I came on in 1993, has been very effective and very successful. Unfortunately, with the shortage of patrol, those officers have been pulled a lot of them out of those neighborhoods, and just in the general patrol division, we need to hire enough to put them back in. And one thing I'll comment real quickly on the Money Geek thing, to be honest, and we've laughed about it, I don't think there's been a big decline in crime here, but I think one thing we should be proud of, we have not seen crime spike in Joliet like it has all over the nation in the last couple of years, and certainly other cities within Illinois, Peoria or Rockford or Springfield, similar cities to Joliet, have seen huge spikes. We haven't done that here. And that's a real credit to Chief Evans and to our police department.
Okay. Your response, and then we're going to have 2 final questions to answer because of time. Thank you.
So I like frameworks, right? So I'm going to use my phone if you don't mind. A framework is a particular set of rules, ideas, beliefs in which you use in order to deal with problems or decide what to do. So I've been sitting on the Reimagine Public Safety Act Local Advisory Committee for about a year now. And what we've been doing is we've been looking at municipalities with 35,000 to 100,000 communities with fatal, non-fatal shootings, and that has been over 2016 to 2020. So when you look at a city like Joliet, we did land on that list with a combined total of 197 combined non-fatal and fatal shootings. So the reason I bring this up is because that Geek survey has had a lot of questions behind it, like what does it mean and what does it not mean? So I like whoever sent this question in because it directly talks about what are we doing right now and what the impact is on smaller crimes, right? And then we had the Safety Act come up, which was a question that we all got asked, and if you haven't looked at the local paper, it asked all of the candidates, how do you feel about this? So again, I beg you to think about what's happening, who's asking the questions, why they want that information, what are they using that data for in your city? And in this small group, remember that there's 150,000 of us here, and our school districts are important, our community services, our folks who serve in the nonviolent projects, and all over the city are important. It's important that we are intentional about building with them. They have the information. They have the outside networks and tools to help us combat crime. The last thing I'll say is that while some of those smaller crimes may not be on the rise, opioid overdose and suicide is. So we need to again come together to have some of those conversations with those groups who are seeing firsthand the bodies in the river, the communities that are in direct array of that situation. They're at the poverty line of $3,000 or less. and their home is in jeopardy, and a lot of them are using drugs and or repeat offenders because they are trying to get drugs. So opioids and things like that that are in our neighborhood with fentanyl, those are the things that lead to crime, and this Crime Prevention Act and Reimagining Public Safety can help us fund those programs that we need so badly.
Thank you. This question is regarding the relationships that the city has with disenfranchised portions of the city. Residents of the East Side feels that the response time to certain questions and issues are very quick, and they believe that response times and issues that have to be responded on the East Side is a lot slower. And one issue that's happening on the East Side is the nearby rock quarry of Vulcan Construction Materials. There's been blasting and explosions, tremors and sirens, etc. They have not been addressed. They've been trying to get that addressed with the city council. They first brought it up in December, and now they were told it won't be addressed until the 18th of April. Considering that, what can you do to change the perception of this type of thing? And number two, why is it taking so long to deal with an issue such as that? Because it's totally disruptive to the quality of life for people on the East Side. It affects their properties, their children, their rhythm of their life in terms of how they deal with it. So what can change with one, particularly that issue, to the actual relationship that the city can and should have with folks on the East Side?
Well, thank you for the question. I like these forums. Unfortunately, the information you have is not correct. I don't understand the question. There was a proposal at one of the quarries to start blasting. It never got to the city council level. Our staff approved it. They put it on the agenda. A number of people came and spoke out against it. The applicant pulled the item from the agenda. So the city council has never heard this issue. We've never vetted the issue. It was set for a public hearing, which is how the process is supposed to work. Again, not backroom deals, but the issue is brought on public. The information that we receive is the same that you receive. We get feedback, we ask questions of the developer, we get feedback from the people. That never happened because the developer pulled it back. So I don't know when they intend to bring it forward, if ever. When they do, we will start the process, and everyone will have a chance to hear and make their own mind up and try to influence the council on which way they want to vote. I don't know much about blasting, but I've learned a little bit since this came up. There are 4 other quarries in Joliet that do have blasting, some on the east side, some on the west side. So it's not unique, but this issue certainly caught the public's attention. But no, there is no current blasting in that quarry, and the city didn't fail to respond to it. We were going to address the issue. It was the applicant that pulled it back. Regarding the overall question, I certainly don't see the city as an east or west side city. When I was a police officer, I worked primarily in Area 1, Sector 11, which is the Forest Park neighborhood. They call it the Hill when I worked there. My wife, who's here today, grew up in the East Side. She went to school across the street. Her parents still live in the East Side. So I don't see any dichotomy. I know it exists in people's minds. I don't see the dichotomy. You can look at the budget, look at street repairs or sidewalk repairs, how money is allocated. It is allocated throughout the city. There are more people on the west side, but I think per capita, I think the east side is treated fairly. If there was a specific issue that was brought forward, myself and certainly the east side city council people would advocate strongly to make sure that there wasn't diversity in how funds are being spent. So I guess that's it.
Okay, that's fine. Because of time, this is going to be the last question, and we'll give both of you an opportunity to answer it. And it's probably one of the most pressing questions I've heard from citizens here in Joliet, and that's regarding the young people here in Joliet. It's been claimed, I don't know how true it is, but there's about 40,000 young people who live in the city of Joliet. And the question would be, what type of non-traditional and innovative youth programming can be created to give young folk career options that will help them grow into responsible next generational taxpayers that will stay and help build Joliet for the future?
So I think a lot youth programs that we've had in the past come back, right? So these are your traditional after-school programs. And so if I just speak candidly, COVID happened, it's still going on, and a lot of our programs have not been reestablished. How many people agree? A few? Okay. So I think when we're hearing this question so much is because we did not come out of the pandemic with a plan. And a lot of people are, wanting to spring right back in. And our schools, I heard a district person talk about this today. Our schools were ready, but some of our agencies were not ready to go back to Zoom and all of these things that were missing and in place, even when we think about mental health. So our students that had missed graduations, prom and dances, this has been talked about throughout the last several months, they kind of suffered in a way that we didn't expect, or a lot of us as adults had not actually put a lens and a focal point on. So we did not build a relationship, I don't think, directly with our school district. And from a city standpoint, in my opinion, what we can do is we can take the focus off again, these large industrial things that are happening on the outside, and come back in and build people up where they are right now. So if you are in a situation where your after-school program lost its funding or is not getting funding, they didn't get picked for these grants, again, we have to look for those resources within the organizations that help provide them. There are so many people going to township now for resources. There are so many families looking for that. One of the things that I talked about, and it may sound similar to another candidate's, is I went to the Romeoville Rec Center, and they built a 10 basketball court. I went to school with that gentleman. He was in Atlanta first, and then he came to Joliet, and the only reason he had the opportunity to speak up is because he was from Joliet Township. And our schools boast of a great catalog of things that they do, but the doors have to stay open for our families and for our youth. Being an after-school advocate, working for 4-H programs, we have to do that. And we have to actually think again, too, about the impact of not having programs and resource centers for these families every single day, at least till 7 p.m., if not 9 p.m.
Thank you. Mayor Overkirk.
Thank you. I have to differ with Ms. Bell a little bit on this. The city, your city government is here for 4 main reasons. We provide police, fire, water, and the streets. That's what we're responsible for. That's what your tax dollars are going for. Now, it's not that simple. There's a lot of other things that will come up and funding for different things. But at the end of the day, those are what city government is here to do and provide those services for you. So we can work with the township or work with the county or work with the school district, and we do. But ultimately, if you're looking for the city of Joliet to provide after-school care, that's not what city government's is here to do. We don't have employees in place to do that. That's not where your tax dollars are being spent. There are other units of government, like the township and the county, that do that. So I will say we work directly with the school districts. We have police officers that are in some of the schools, and again, it's at the will of the school district. It's not our call. I agree, coming out of COVID, our schools and our students suffer greatly. There's a horrible statistic from last year. For 2021, 2022, there were 12 suicides in Joliet area schools. It's an astounding number. Fortunately, we haven't seen it repeated this year, and the violence level in the schools are down. So back up with Mr. Parker's here. He would know firsthand about that. So I agree with what happened with COVID, but the city's role is to support these other forms of government. When there's funding available or with grants, we're certainly able to do that. But beyond that, we do not play a direct role in those types of things.
Thank you very much. Let's have a hand for both candidates today. Thank you, Ms. Bell. Thank you, Mayor Overkirk. Make certain that you all go out and vote on April 4th. As Ms. Bell said, the Hebrew term for vote is voice. One thing I want to do before I leave, there's a young person here in this forum who came and handed me a question, and I think you all should understand what the question was. Is he still here?
Yes, he's here.
Where is he? Can you stand up, sir? There he is. Give this young man a hand. How old are you, sir? 17. I wish I was 17. about 50 years. Listen, thank you for your question. And I'm going to read what the question is because it really kind of concerned him. And originally he addressed it to you, Mayor, but I decided I just want to put this forward because the impression that we leave on our young people, we take it for granted. He said, does this remind you of a candidate formed in 2015 where Mayor Durante was a no-show, but you and Mr. Mihalik were also there. You came to the forum. What does it say to voters when a candidate is a no-show? Now, let me tell you. Hey, stay out the weeds now. I'm going to say this, and I'll give you a little background behind this. We didn't find out until about maybe an hour before this event that he was not coming. And I say he because I won't mention his name. Because one, he can't defend his actions because he's not here. I think when you're running for office, and particularly the highest office in this city, you have an obligation to talk to every voter. They may not vote for you, but they want to hear you. And if a voter has made a decision to take time out of their Saturday morning to travail to this place and to sit down and listen to the questions that's been brought forward, but most importantly, listen to the answers that the candidates who are here are answering, that tells you a lot about him. So young man, that's why, because I told him, I said, don't worry, because I'll deal with this, because I'm not going to mention his name. And I haven't. He knows who he is. Many of you might know who he is. He ain't here. So thank you for that question, young fella. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a future in politics. Be engaged. Tell your children who are of voting age, be engaged. Because we're not all going to be here. I'm on borrowed time. All of us are on borrowed time. Seriously, we are. So thank you for coming out and supporting this forum. Thank you for giving us your ears and your attention. We hope that this has given you some food for thought about the election coming up on April 4th. Tell your brothers, tell your neighbors, tell your mama, tell your father, tell your cousin and them to come on out and vote on April 4th. Thank you very much. Great to meet you all. You'll have a great rest of the weekend.
Hello, my name is Diane M. Harris, and I'm a candidate for Joliet Junior College trustee. I'm number 5 on the ballot. A little bit about me, I'm also a Joliet Public Library trustee and a member of the City Center, I should say a board member of the City Center Partnership. I have a small business downtown Joliet, and it's called It Is Amazing. And I focus and support small business because I know collaborating with community college is also an asset to help move our youth forward. Joliet Junior College has been around for over 100 years, and we want to keep it that way. So on April 4th or early, I ask that you vote for me, Diane M. Harris, number 5 on the ballot, to represent you as your Joliet Junior College trustee. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janine Jackson. I'm running for Joliet City Council, District 3. One of my goals is to make sure that our subdivisions are not inundated with inappropriate infrastructure. I ask that you vote for me on April 4th. If you have any questions for me, any concerns, please feel free to email me at Janine, Janean, the number 4, Joliet @gmail.com, and I will respond expeditiously.
Everyone, my name is Rosa. Rosa Hernandez, and I'm running for City Council District 4. I am a commissioner on the Board of Police and Fire, so one of my missions, if I get elected, is going to be public safety. It's very important for me to keep our families, our children safe, so that's going to be my priority. But I will definitely work the best I can to represent District 4 in any possible way, and I will be your voice, so please, April 4th, vote Rosa Hernandez, District 4. Thank you.